Hi everyone, welcome. I'm not 50 or 60 years old. That's everybody else's legacy installs that have been going wrong. But thank you, Barry. Thank you, everybody. Lovely opportunity to come in and speak to you all. I really enjoy stepping outside of my usual remit of the vent world, and I'm learning a lot about blower door testing and everything else. And I think that we need to collaborate more going forward as regs change and improve. So that's my Tinder profile. I've lost my hair. My eyesight's going a bit. So my name's Nathan Wood. I'm a managing director of Farmwood. Farmer's my mum's maiden name. Wood's my dad. Dad started the company. I had no intention of working for the old man. I was a heavy steel industry worker, apprentice, on a place called the Isle of Sheppey. Loved the job. What I know about ventilation and air quality now, I would never step foot in the place. It's a bit like Mad Max on steroids. Unfortunately, like most steel industries, it closed down, everybody was out of work. Turned to the old man, he said, good luck. He just started the firm, didn't have enough work for me. I was like, thank you very much. So I went from heavy industry to the food processing industry with the machinery and the equipment there. Joined him 9 months later. That was 22 years ago, so throughout that time we've always specialised in ventilation, be that commercial, industrial, residential. And through taking on apprentices, been huge advocates of apprenticeships, developing the team and the people, because you can't, as you know now, you can't get anybody now, but you couldn't just go and get a ventilation engineer off the shelf and then run with him. So without question, the life of our company has been through apprenticeships and training and upskilling, finding the right aptitude for the people that want to come in and develop with us. So it's not just me coming here and do all of this crazy stuff. The team actually do, they own it 100%, and they know their place. So we're a really well-established, family-based company. We work for absolutely everybody and anybody. We're not exclusive to any one manufacturer. So just dropping back, why I sort of decided to develop what I found awkward when people talk about their passion. I understand music, or for me cycling, but finding a passion in your job, I think is quite something. So 8 years ago, I had my second child, my boy Rory, and I was doing the dad night nursing, phone in one hand, child in the other, finished setting up my LinkedIn profile, and starting to connect with people mainly overseas that were talking about this thing called indoor air quality. Started connecting, using the whole LinkedIn thing, and found this whole new world about indoor environment, sick building syndrome, and everything else that was enveloped around that. So I started to really develop an interest in it and realised very quickly that no one in the UK was really doing this. There was a little bit of talk about it, but not much at all. So fascinated by that relationship of like, this is what we do day in, day out, and yet we're not making this relation to indoor air and air quality. So the team at work quite often say that the tail was wagging the dog, so I went in all excited saying this is what we need to do, we need to develop this. Started talking to lots of organisations and trade associations and different memberships that we have, and everybody was like, yeah, okay, that's great. And that was it. There was no sort of forethought moving on from there. And then the BBC done a DIY SOS big build on the Isle of Sheppey where I live. And we knew that they was going to completely demolish the house and rebuild it. So we was like, shit, we've got to get involved in this. Thinking the nice high-vis vest, the logo just the right size, we get some good publicity off of this. It wasn't really what turned out to be the best thing for the family. So that's the Ratcliffe family. We've become really, really good friends. They're going to be a lifelong charity that we support as well. So Gary and Kyle adopted these 4 kids, Poppy, Hayden, Belle and Phoebe. Curtis in the red jumper there, this is 6-7 years ago now. He's the same age as my eldest, so he's turning 14 this year. And before the big build, every seasonal change, Curtis would end up in the Evelina Hospital with respiratory concerns. Life-threatening every seasonal change. I'm not saying it's because of what the big build did and the ventilation system we installed and the air quality monitoring that we put in and the purifiers, but every year since then, he's been living in that home with good quality monitored air. He hasn't been back to hospital for the same seasonal respiratory issues. He has been back to hospital. He's a very poorly boy, but not for the respiratory issues. And the doctors have actually turned around and said, what else went on in this? So they're learning about what we were doing. And I don't know if you picked up just recently, the NHS are now getting access to some sort of app where they're monitoring the air quality, where people might be, and taking that into consideration. Seems crazy that they haven't been doing that previously. So that was sort of our moment where we realised, this is life-changing. This can improve people's lives. And any of you have kids, as soon as you work with kids and you get involved in it, it pulls at your heartstrings. You realise that what you're doing has something of more tangible value than a logo and hopefully some work. And just to say, I sat at the phone the very next day, because it takes 6 to 8 months for these shows to go on air. Not a single phone call. But I talk about it a lot. So let's just drop back. So because of that, wrong way. Because of the Ratcliffe presentation that I gave to an organisation called BCTA, the Building Engineering Services Association. I'm now chairman of an indoor air quality committee there, and a similar association called GCP Europe. On there, it's actually changed now. We've gone from IEQ, environmental quality, back to IAQ. So when we talk about ventilation, very similar to what Ian said, people assume that you're this AC guy or girl. You expect these lovely installations, CAD drawings, everything laid out perfectly, and everything is executed on point. There's rules and regulations for days that no one takes a blind bit of notice of. There's approved document F, L, O, whatever you want to relate it to. Commercially, SFG 20, which is like the Bible for maintenance as well, and how that's put forward. The manufacturers give you clear guidance on how to install the system, maintain the system, look after it, who to contact. I've got to be careful what I say now. There's competency courses you can go on. The 2 existing ones are woeful. I go up against them all the time. I won't name them. You know who they are, probably. Our guys do ventilation day in, day out. We have to go on the courses, we have to go on the refresher, because other than Barry's newly developed course, they were the only things that would deem you competent. In 2 days, without no prerequisite for what knowledge you need, you can go on a ventilation competence course, and after 2 days and an open book test, rubber stamped, go and install MVHR in a block of 500 flats. Sign it off, commission it, hand it over to building control, who won't have a clue what that is. Sorry for any building control officers that are here. Most of them won't. And you can get away with it. It's intangible, It's only when people start to get mould and damp issues, and we know about the concerns that are all going through the press at the moment from the housing ombudsman and the claims and the culture that's driving. So we do have rules, we do have regulations, we've got building control, we've got competence and compliance and training and lovely equipment and fantastic manufacturers. No one seems to care still. But regulation is changing. So I've been on a bit of a mission with my team to highlight the real life issues that we uncover day to day. And I just had a chat with a couple of gentlemen talking about new installations. I said, I'd love to go back to new installations, but I'm still dealing with, as Barry said, years of crap. Literally years of this. So this is the inside, not of that unit, but of the same style units on the wall back there. You might see the slight chrome circly bit. That's the drive for that fan. So that fan should be lovely and black, and all of the inside of that unit should be a black polystyrene, if you like. It's mould, it's fungus, it's growth. I have no idea what that pool of black stuff is. It looks better on the big screen, actually. That's inside a ventilation system that is driving air into somebody's building or extracting it back out. So I'm sure if any of you saw a straw on the floor, you wouldn't pick it up and just breathe through it or put it in a milkshake and try and drink through it. So why do we allow this to go on? This is some type of fungus that was growing inside the ventilation unit. It's minging. It really is. And yet we're quite happy to just breathe the air within our homes. Homes that, the way I see it, you guys ensure are airtight. So it's even more needed that the air that you're breathing within that space is clean. That's not a piece of toast. That's not a toaster. That's a filter from an MVHR unit. Clearly, the people in this property had the extract grill too close to the cooker because that's cooking contamination and probably smoke and everything else in there. So if you think the amount of grease that's built up on that filter, it's also built up from the extract through the ducts in the system to the unit. What's the fire risk there? You know. If this slide and the next slide, this really bugs me. If you ever come across this stuff, we're good. If you ever come across this stuff, this silver ducting, or this white tumble dry stuff that you can pick up from Screwfix, just run. It's terrible stuff. The manufacturers sell it. It's still in the regs. The new regs that are pending, I think it's 200 mil. That's what we just discussed. So you should only use 200 mil of this ducting, which should ideally be the final connections onto the unit or the final connections onto the air valves inside the home. The current approved document F refers to a BCTA document DW145, I think it is, which is 12 years old. You have to pay £45 to download, and it contradicts the regs. I don't get it. I really don't get it. You know, you need to be deemed competent and compliant, and you need to know the regulations. You jump through hoops to do all of these courses, buy the expensive equipment, make sure that the manufacturer's system is correct, that the design is correct, and then people just chuck that in. And that gets passed, handed over, building control come along, look at it, stamp, great, off you go. Someone moves in. 6 months later, I've got headaches, I've got mould growing, my kid's developed asthma. Ductwork hygiene and compartmentation, that's again the inside of a poorly maintained piece of ducting. It's in the regulations as well that all ducting should be accessible for maintenance. I don't know any bit of kit on the market that can actually clean domestic ducting without potentially tearing some of it apart. Compartmentation is a big word in the commercial world as well. Many of you might have picked up on the issues around tech screws and fire dampers. It's the same for in the residential industry as well. Kitchen grease build-up. This is the back of an air valve. Again, this is extracting the air, but still massive fire risk from what's happening there. And it was actually off the back of this unit, which was a lovely retrofit. Hopefully you can make that out. So some bright spark has decided to actually go, hang on a minute, we've got a recirculating kitchen canopy here, but we've got an air valve there for the MVHR. So if we really want to recover the heat, let's just duct straight into it. And it's quite a neat job, to be fair. They've not done a bad job of it. That's only half of the plastic ducting you can see going up into the ceiling there. But that was the result on the inside of it. Clearly not using the grease filters at all. Massive fire risk. So at that stage, it's that contaminated. The only solution there is to rip out the ceilings, take it all down and replace it all. Massive works. But it's not just MVHR. There's through the wall fans, or in this case, through and into the ceiling fans. Wasn't actually connected to atmosphere. One screw holding it in place. We got the call to say that a fan had fallen out the ceiling. It's just there. No one cares. Another example of flexi-duct. It doesn't just come in the round form, it comes in rectangular as well. That's okay, it's just concertinaed up and the air can get around that. The restrictions on that just puts the system massively out of balance. It has to run faster, work harder, costs more to run. It's noisy, but no one will see that. That will be passed and handed over. You can see the metalwork at the bottom. We've actually cut the ceiling out to get to it. And that's all they had to have done. Not that, that. But the trouble is, like I was just chatting with the two other gentlemen, the amount of changes that happen to a design in its organic nature on site. there's a beam that's there or something's not quite right as it was on the plan. Off-site manufacture. I'm loving off-site manufacture. It should work, but for some reason it just doesn't in the UK. I see it working really well overseas. There was a company based out of Essex that closed a couple of years ago now. Massive factory. Everyone could park on site. Everyone could walk through, have a clean working environment, somewhere to sit and eat, not just sat on the road outside McDonald's or having a cheeky Greggs. Everything was clean. Everything was looked after. Risk assessments were in play. They built these prefabricated pods, which the heat recovery unit was part of. They didn't take into account the door frame once the door was fitted, so you can't remove the green heat exchanger out of the unit. It's basic stuff. The manufacturer's literature clearly states you need a minimum distance from the front of the unit to be able to access it, to remove the heat exchanger for cleaning. This is one of our installations. It doesn't actually meet the guidance. We had to make some changes because of the height of the ceiling and the way that we needed to make the drops through. But this is what we should be using, pre-insulated ducting. Nice and accessible, well lit. You can't see it, but there is a walkway to that unit as well. It's not just residential systems though. This is a commercial unit. In the background there you can just make out that is World's End Estate in Chelsea, in London. That's a baffle plate from the inside of one of the units, so all of the air that's coming up from the properties is hitting that before it's going through to the fans. Heavily contaminated. Air handling units, larger, basically MVHRs if you like, AHUs. Filters never serviced, never maintained. The filters literally get so contaminated that they break down, fold in half, drop inside the unit, and then your coil gets slammed with dust and dirt and debris, so your maintenance cost goes up. The unit's not performing properly. Your energy usage goes up. This is a basic twin fan extract unit. Again, white mould deposits and everything building up on the unit. It says eco-smart, it's not very smart doing that. The unit itself is probably extracting from 20 or 30 apartments. So then once those units fail or get turned off, it doesn't take long for this issue to occur. Again, you can see in this one, we haven't removed the lid. The lid wasn't there. So these units are actually swimming around in water. You can see the silicon from somebody else's attempt to seal the unit off. And the white electrical enclosure in there is retrofitted in there. That's not designed to be inside, and that's actually hindering the airflow to these two fans as well. It's an IP rated box. It should be mounted on the outside. So somebody's just popped it inside. Again, ductwork hygiene, communal systems, most of the time, specifications that go out. You look after the shiny box on the roof, the resident looks after the grill inside. We don't care what happens to the bit in between the two. We all know what happened at Grenfell, and it could happen in so many different tower blocks all across London and the UK. The spread of fire through ducting where there's no compartmentation is a real risk, and we're issuing non-conformance notices left, right and centre now to tell people that they are not in accordance to the law. This isn't a beehive, although I'd love to think that when we rip out 60 of them, we could probably repurpose them somehow, insect sort of home. It's a really old intromescent fire block from a block of flats that was signed off the previous year by the previous supplier, previous service provider, sorry. That's probably older than me, and I'm the wrong side of 40, so yeah, there's no joined up thinking with the fire risk as well with these systems. This is a lovely retrofit, so block of flats, new roof, cladded, solar panels that you can see there. They forgot about the vent. In approved document F, there's a page that says if you change the windows and do the cladding, this is the ventilation system that you need to upgrade and put forward. Nobody pays any attention to that either. And they had government funding to do this whole scheme, and then they had to wait, I think it was nearly 2 years in the end before they could afford to upgrade the ventilation system to that, which is what we put in. But no one cares, it's just there, right? We should care. This affects real people's lives. We know about outdoor air pollution, and everybody's been talking about outdoor air pollution for years. The air within our space comes from outside, and the air in our space goes outside. So it's intrinsically linked. It has massive life impacts. Lady on the right as you're looking, Rosamond Adu Deborah, her daughter Ella Roberta was the first person in the UK to have air pollution listed as a cause of her death. You've probably heard a lot about her. She's a fantastic woman. The young boy, Awab Ishak, up in Rochdale, died as a direct result of mould and damp in his social housing. Hence the Ombudsman investigations and everything that's gone on from there. More people, more children in the UK develop asthma than are born with it. It's mental. Most of it caused by mould and damp and poor indoor air quality in our homes. Public Health England talk all about it. Children with asthma, slow development of lung function, development problems. Years ago, before indoor air quality became a buzzword, I attended a seminar and Professor Ian Mudway from Imperial College London stated that children developing in areas of poor air pollution are likely to grow and have reduced lung function. And somebody asked by how much, and he said about the size of a chicken egg. In more recent years, he said it's 2 chicken eggs per lung. When you think the size of a child and their lung development, that can have life-limiting issues for them. There's loads of really good groups. The Clean Air Hub, you've probably heard of Clean Air Day. There's also World Ventilation Day. BEMA, so Airflow are part of BEMA, which is a manufacturers association, which most of the other ventilation manufacturers are part of as well. They've done some amazing work. No one really talks about it. Even in our own circles, no one really promotes and collaborates on this. I just don't understand why we don't preach more. We need to. The Building Safety Act is in play. We need to make sure that we are on the right side of the law. Currently, there are no national occupational standards for domestic ventilation in existence. Therefore, anybody that's in domestic ventilation, we do not comply with the law. So hence why I dragged Barry down to London and a few others and get the right people in the right room, and then I started effing and jeffing saying, I'm not on about quick wins and 5-year plans. We've got to make this happen now. We are the right people to make this happen. Let's make it happen. And then I have to sit back and calm down and understand you do need to go for the quick wins because there's a long process involved in this. But I am still kicking, and lots of us are still kicking and screaming. And if any more people want to get involved, it's not a closed shop. Let us know if you're interested. So that's looking at happening as well. I should have got the link on here. James Thornton was, I don't think he's anymore, the CEO of Client Earth. Client Earth took the UK government to court and won, where they found that the UK government was in breach of its own laws for air pollution. And they said, no, we have no intention of doing anything until 2025. So we're now in 2024, and they refused Ella's Law, the Clean Air Bill. So if you can, try and remember this. James Thornton, CEO of Client Earth, How to Start a Revolution. It's a fantastic 2-minute film on YouTube about how he took the UK government to court and won, and he has mentioned that he'll go back and do it again. And I hope that now, less than 12 months away from 2025, he will go back after them and work out why they turned down Ella's Law and the new health bill. And hopefully this will play next. This is hopefully... So just click again, Barry? Yeah, right. This covers everything that we're here for today perfectly.
In 160 seconds, you will decide how the story ends. This is a story about us, the indoor generation. A generation that spends 90% of its life indoors. It all started the day we left nature behind. We filled our homes with lovely things and all the stuff we wanted. Our home became places we would never want to leave. Artificial light replaced daylight, and we built our houses so that nothing could escape. We cooked and showered, breathed and played, slept and sweated. But we had closed ourselves in. To a point where nothing could get out. everywhere to make the darkness bearable. That's when things started to happen. Hard to notice in the beginning. Some needed help to sleep, to breathe, to not itch. Many of us even started to feel sad. So we turned on happy lamps to make the sadness go away. Then, scientists discovered that the air inside our homes is up to 5 times more polluted than the air outside. And that the lack of daylight can affect children's learning and increase blood pressure. It turns out that kids' rooms often have the highest concentration of toxicants in the house. In fact, millions of homes are unhealthy to live in. They discovered that living in damp and moldy homes increases the risk of asthma by 40%. And I learned that millions of people like me suffer from asthma and allergies caused by bad indoor environment. And so, here we are. How the story ends is up to you, because it's not written yet. If you care about the younger generation, do something. Begin to think and live differently. Let life and fresh air into your life again. Even small changes can make a huge difference for younger generations. Learn how at theindoorgeneration.com.
That's by Velux. How cool is that? They don't ram a product down your throat. They might show a roof being cut out for a window to slot in. That's quite a few years old now as well, so all of the facts and figures in there have only got worse. I really hope that you can share that and take on board that we need to collaborate more as an industry. We need to make sure that there's joined up thinking all the way through the process and that we are making not just business decisions, but everything that we do has a direct impact on people's lives in homes. Thank you very much. That's me.
Well, thank you very much. Thoroughly enjoyed that. And I am completely justified in not putting you on just before lunch. So thanks for coming down and talking. Maybe we've got time for one quick question before we bring on Billy. Any questions? No?
Thank you.
I'll ask one.
Oh, God.
Not going to let you get away with it. If you could change one thing right now, one thing. So you're the regulator, you're sitting in with HSE, BSR, any of these other acronyms. What's the one sentence you write into the regulations now that changes everything?
Independent commissioning and enforcement. Yeah.
You heard it first.
Yeah.
Independent commissioning.
Yeah.
I think that's the start. Definitely, if you commission it and it fails, it goes back to the manufacturer to figure out why. If the manufacturer's installed it perfectly, it goes back to the designer. And I think that's such a simple thing we can do to make the whole circle work a bit better. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really. Okay, so the next speaker we have, our final speaker, is somebody I can now call a good friend of mine, Mr. Billy Coulter from. He's come all. Oh, forgot my hat's in the car. I'll bring it out. Mr. Billy Coulter, all the way from Texas, to come and talk with us. Mr. Coulter is seen what we do. He's the current president of BCTA, as well as 06 Consultant. You got it? You good?
No, not really.
Don't be afraid to get in there. Don't be afraid to stick it to his shirt. So, without Mr. Coulter's going to talk to us all about some of the cool things they're doing and how competence really does create confidence in our industry. Just bring up the correct presentation before I.
Boom.
There we go. You're on.
All right.
You're mic'd up.
I am mic'd up.
Yeah. Let me just adjust these.
Don't get afraid to get in there, Barry.